Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing an Underhyped Books video. I was thinking about it and I realized that there are several books that I absolutely love but I just don't talk about, and I haven't seen anybody else talk about them on BookTube either. Or if they have been talked about, very little. Let's get started. The first one is Liberty. I can't remember the author because it's been a long time since I read this, but it is a historical fiction set in ancient Rome. This young girl from either France, called Gaul at the time, or England, is captured and taken back to Rome as a slave. She is forced to fight as a gladiator. I love this book. I honestly don't remember much more than that. I just know that I loved this book. The writing was beautiful and the plot, and it was set in ancient Rome, which is also not a thing that you find all that often. The next one is Incarcerate. Again, author forgotten at the moment, but there will be pictures on the screen somewhere so you can check those out. This is a YA fantasy about people who are trying to escape their lives at the time. There's so much good about this. It is a duology composed of Incarcerate and Safik. Oh my gosh. The twist at the end of Incarcerate I never saw coming. Safik was a little bit less unpredictable, but it was still a really good book, so if you are at all interested in it, I think it would be fantastic. Third one is Girl in the Steel Corset by Katie Cross. I don't know why I remember her name but not the others. At any rate, Girl in the Steel Corset is a steampunk quartet, which means it is set in Victorian times, or at the very least the 19th century, but technology has advanced much farther than it actually did. There's also a little bit of sort of magic in this world, and the girl in the steel corset is our main character. She has super strength and finds other people like her. Of course, because it's a book, there's a big problem that comes up, and she and her newfound friends have to figure out how to stop it happening. I absolutely loved this book as well. I've heard The Girl in the Clockwork Collar mentioned. I don't remember by who, but that's about the only time I've heard it mentioned, and I think this series deserves so much more hype than that, because it goes into relationships, both romantic and platonic, and it talks about trauma, past trauma as well, and how to cope with that, which I thought was really good. Next is another YA fantasy, which is Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetta. This book is about a young man whose kingdom, or homeland rather, was taken over by a usurper who then put a bow around the kingdom. Finnegan, our main character, can't get back to his homeland, and he spends the entire book trying to do exactly that because he feels kind of guilty. This is a trilogy, and it was recommended to me by my friend Katie years ago. This series is also amazing, common thread here, and I love the way the characters got to know each other and how they all intertwined. Each of the books is about a different character, but they all obviously come together in the nature of books. This series is just so beautifully written and at the same time so easy, and this is the shortest book there is. I don't know why it's black up there. Apologies. This is the shortest book of the trilogy and they go by so fast. Highly recommend it if you are at all interested in YA fantasy. Then I have The Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. This is a used copy, hence the reason there's no dust jacket and it's kind of ugly. But yeah. This book is, I think it's YA. It was in my high school library, which is where I originally found the series, but it follows Merlin and Arthur in another retelling of the Arthurian saga. I love the Arthurian saga. Not as much as I love Elizabeth I, but I do highly enjoy it. To be honest, I read this in high school, so I really don't remember much of the plot besides that it's an Arthur retelling, and I love this series. I would like to reread it soonish, maybe in the next year, but if you like Arthur retellings, this is a particularly good one. Next, I have the autobiography of Henry VIII with notes by his fool, Will Summers, by Margaret George. That's a mouthful of a title. Margaret George writes a lot of fictional biographies of different historical figures. She's written, obviously, one on Henry VIII. She wrote one on Cleopatra, which I did a review on, and I'll leave link down below. She's done one on Helen of Troy, which I think is the only one I haven't read. One on Elizabeth I, and one on Mary Queen of Scots. The latter two I have both read, and I enjoyed the Mary Queen of Scots one more than the Elizabeth one, despite the fact that I really don't like Mary Queen of Scots that much. Moving on. This is clearly about Henry VIII, but it's a different take on it, primarily because it includes tidbits from his fool, Will Somers, who was the only person to be able to break bad news to Henry, such as, your fifth wife is sleeping with your valet. That didn't go well. But somehow Somers kept his head, one of the few people in Henry's inner circle to keep his head. And I thought that was a really genius way of doing it. It shows Henry as a human as opposed to just this king who had 6 wives. Also, any of her books are good. Just any of them. The last book that I'm going to recommend today is The Tiger Queens by Stephanie Thornton. This is a book about 3 or 4 women related to Genghis Khan. It starts with his wife, and then I think it goes to his daughter, and there's a couple more with more tenuous relationships. These women are amazing. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. This book, first of all, it's about Genghis Khan and his wives, female relations, etc. And you don't find that often, if ever, at least not in my experience. 2, it's beautifully written. 3, these women are all, without swearing, these women are all phenomenally amazing. And I loved reading this book as it follows the generations and how they cope with the falling apart of the empire that Genghis built, and seeing all of the traditions that the Mongols had as they incorporated the Chinese aspects, since Genghis then proceeded to go and take over China. A lot is packed into this book. It is an adult historical fiction, and I cannot recommend it enough. Those are all of the books I have to recommend to you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give a big thumbs up down below and hit that subscribe button. My Goodreads is linked in the description if you want to check it out, as is the Cleopatra review video. Until my next video, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye.